Physical stress has to do with our lifestyle habits.
Yeah.
Emotional stress has to do with our feelings and how we handle those feelings. Mental stress has to do with our thoughts, whether they are enabling or disabling. Relational stress has to do with whether our relationships are healthy or toxic. And spiritual stress has to do with whether we can find purpose and meaning in our lives and whether we have a connection with the deepest part of ourselves.
Yeah.
Forget anything else. And therefore, our program is designed around these 5 things.
Yeah.
We talked about immunity having to be kept in optimum condition.
Yeah.
We all know that immunity is compromised by stress.
Yeah.
But what most people are not aware of is that stress can be, you can feel stress at one of 5 levels. You can feel physical stress.
Yeah.
You can have emotional stress.
Yeah.
You can have mental stress. You can have relational stress. And you can even have spiritual stress. So, if you want to keep your immunity in top condition, you have to deal with your stressors at each one of these levels. So, for example, physical stress would involve things like diet and nutrition,
Yeah.
exercise, rest, and laughter.
Okay.
Right? It's well known that all of these elements have an impact on your immune system. Now, most people are maybe aware of the first 3, but maybe not of the 4th.
Yeah.
Right? And so, if you can find a way to integrate that into your life, then you're doing something at the level of your physical stress. Obviously, there are other elements that contribute to physical stress, the kind of work you do, the kind of pollution that is there, that might be there in the environment around you, and all that. But when it comes to the environment, that's really not in our control.
Yeah.
What is in our control are our physical lifestyle habits.
Yeah.
And you can do a lot in that area to help your own immunity. So that's the first part. The second is emotional stress, right? Which has to do with our feelings and how we deal with those feelings, how we respond to situations in terms of our feelings, right? Now, if we are going to carry deep-rooted emotional blocks and deep-rooted childhood wounds and deep-rooted emotional baggage with us, the immune system is distracted from its real purpose and is trying to deal with all of those things. This is psychoneuroimmunology. So if we can manage our emotional landscape in a healthier and in a more balanced way, then the immune system is free to do what it is supposed to do, which is to spot the cancer cells and deal with them. Right? So this is emotional stress. And there are many things and there are many techniques that people can use to deal with their emotional stress. Then there is mental stress. Mental stress has to do with your thoughts, the kind of thoughts that you have, the way you look at life, your mindset, your outlook, your attitudes, right? So some people have what we call disabling attitudes.
Yeah.
If you continue to have those disabling attitudes, for example, if you continue to see cancer as a death sentence, you are compromising your own immunity. Whereas if you're able to see cancer as giving you new possibilities, you might be helping your own immunity.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
So how do you learn how to manage your thoughts in such a way that instead of being disabling thoughts, they become enabling thoughts? The fourth aspect or the fourth level at which stress can occur is called relational stress.
Yeah.
Which basically means that since no man is an island or no woman is an island, right, the relationships in which we operate have a direct impact on how we feel, how we think, how we act, and therefore our immunity.
Yeah.
So it has been clearly shown that if you live in a toxic environment, in a toxic family, or if you work in a toxic workplace, right, it's going to have an impact on your immunity. Now again, what can you do to heal those broken or dysfunctional relationships at home, at work, in your friend circle, in society in general, etc. Right? So for example, if you look at in today's world, we keep talking about this polarization of values that is taking place. This is making a lot of people very uncomfortable, and I'm sure it's having a physical impact on them.
Yeah.
Right? So what can you do in the area of healing your relationships is another way to keep your immunity at a high level. And the last area is what we call spiritual stress, and many people say, well, what is spiritual stress? Right? So the way we look at spiritual stress is at two levels. The first is all human beings want to have a meaning to their lives, and they want to bring a purpose to their lives. Human beings don't want to lead a routine, mundane, mechanical life which has no meaning and no purpose. But our current environment, our social situation, our cultural situation, our economic situation doesn't really encourage us or doesn't really train us to answer those very important questions. What is the purpose of my life? What is the meaning in my life? Who am I? What am I contributing to the world? If we don't have these answers, we have this existential emptiness inside of us. Many people call it the midlife crisis. But actually what it does is it creates an internal stress at a very different level from the 4 levels that we have described. The second dimension of spiritual stress is that when we have become an individualistic society and a ego-driven society and a consumption-driven society, we have lost touch with the fact that there is a whole wide world around us, outside of us, right? And that whether you want to call it spirit or God or divine or the universe or whatever you want to call it, which is out there, right, keeping this magnificent life going, we have lost touch with it, right? And so if we can find a way by which we can discover purpose and meaning in our lives, if we can find a way by which we can reconnect with that source that gives us life energy, then we can deal with our spiritual stress. Physical stress has to do with our lifestyle habits. Emotional stress has to do with our feelings and how we handle those feelings. Mental stress has to do with our thoughts, whether they are enabling or disabling. Relational stress has to do with whether our relationships are healthy or toxic. And spiritual stress has to do with whether we can find purpose and meaning in our lives and whether we have a connection with the deepest part of ourselves. Forget anything else. And therefore, our program is designed around these 5 things.
Yeah.